Today, let's have a look at how we train the deficit handstand push-up. Now, the deficit handstand push-up can be done on high stools, a box, P-bars, even IKEA steps. But let's first break down the movement. Let's look at the prerequisites and how we go about learning such a skill. Now, obviously, if we're going to start handstanding or trying to handstand push-up on something up here, we need to be able to handstand at elevation. So that's something I'd start to work on first at a height like this that's easy to exit out of. And obviously it makes sense that you wouldn't start on something this high if you can't do the lower IKEA step heights. Now something like this is actually much easier because of that platform than something like these P-bars, because now I don't have such a platform. So if I start to go over, I need to know how to get out. And also notice what happened there. These are very unstable. If I push sideways, if I push straight down, they're super stable. But if as soon as I push sideways, they can pop out. So we need to bear that in mind as well. Now, most of you, when you first get elevated, you're going to be against the wall. And I'd first recommend you go back to wall, not chest to wall. Back to wall allows you to get used to the height. And if you start on something like this, you can kick up normal. You want to plant the shoulders on top of the hands, have that strong focal point. And then I'm just going to kick and push up and just practice elevating up to the handstand position, coming back down with control, but still keeping lots of weight on that base. So you can actually come down quite slowly because I'm staying planted on top of this. This makes it much more controlled and you get comfortable at that height. Then we can start to turn it around the other way and work out how we can get up chest to wall. This is quite tricky to start with. And I'd recommend you find somewhere that has more of a sparse wall entry and not trying to get into the position in a narrow space. So then I'm going to place one hand on here, one hand away, and then just kick up and walk up the wall that way. And get comfortable in that position. You can obviously play with balance, but know that you could potentially go over. Then I'd move back to wall again and just have a play with catching in your freestanding hold, using the wall as needed, build that confidence there. Now obviously you need to have a freestanding handstand if you can do the freestanding version. I wouldn't start trying to learn a freestanding handstand on this height. I would learn that first on the floor. But if you're strong, you could start working towards the deficit handstand push-up, but be realistic and know that it's going to be on the wall and not freestanding until you have that stronger hold first on the floor that can carry over to the raised surface. So then we have the top handstand position. We next need to learn that bottom position and make sure we're super comfortable in the shoulder stand. So if we've got a standard handstand push-up on the floor where our head is touching, we don't actually go all the way down to this position. So this is actually much easier to hold than the floor version like this. This is really hard because I'm a bit in no man's land. In the shoulder stand position, I can come down and put weight on to my upper arm with the torso. As long as my angle is stacked backwards like this, it's really easy to hold. And I recommend you explore that shoulder stand position on lots of different things. So the boxes, the P-bars, the low steps. And then we also need to build confidence with the position. So know how to go between this position and this position and hold balance. So notice that I'm controlling the underbalance, and then when I go this way I'm controlling the overbalance. So I'm stopping myself with my fingers. But if I do go too far over with my feet, there is a point of no return, exactly the same as in a handstand, and I need to know how to bail out if that happens. So then our prerequisites for the next stage is to have that bottom position, that shoulder stand, the handstand, have a floor handstand push-up, so be able to do this comfortably for repetitions, either against the wall if we're doing the wall version, or the freestanding version if we're going to do it on the box in the middle of the room. Then we can go between those two positions, so between our, get the handstand pull, so between our handstand position and our shoulder stand by lowering slowly. So going through the eccentric of the pathway. Now notice as I come down, I'm starting to take the feet backwards and the head and shoulders more in the tilted, angled position relevant to the landing position, that shoulder stand, and it's slightly different than the floor version. The floor version does come forwards, but this one's probably going to come down a little bit further forwards, but obviously much deeper. But that's where having a little bit more play with that shoulder position forwards and backwards will give you a bigger landing area and you'll have more room for error. And then exactly the same with the wall version. If you're not doing the freestanding one, the hardest bit is getting these boxes in the right position. So you don't want to be too close because you'll topple over or won't be able to get into the position, but you don't want to be too far away because it'll make your angle too flat. So we're trying to mimic that freestanding version as much as possible. So I go somewhere there, as long as I don't kick the wall like that, and get up into position. So there, make the body one segment, and then just slowly coming down till you get into your shoulder stand position. Show control, ideally float the toes a little bit and then exit. out the side. But if you have done eccentrics up against the wall for your standard handstand push-up, you'll notice straight away that it's actually much easier to bail out from that bottom position than it is when your head touches the floor, just because the shoulder stand you can rotate and you've got more space to come out. Now, if you struggle with that, you can work on a slow entry to shoulder stand, and this, I would recommend you play with this anyway, even if you're not struggling, because you can just refine that position where I can slowly come down. It's a bit more like a pike push-up, and then at one point float up the other leg into the shoulder stand, and you can actually get a bit of a concentric back out. That's really nice to play with, and you've got the safety of the wall there if you need it as well. But basically just trying to slowly enter that deep shoulder stand position. And then we can start looking at the concentric. Now, some of you are going to take a little bit of time. You're going to have to do lots and lots of eccentrics. We'll keep working on your standard handstand push-up, even go to some deficit pike push-ups. But when you feel ready, you can start to push back up. Now, there's two options here. We can go strength that doesn't require so much balance. So that's a concentric rep. So basically you start in the shoulder stand and then you push as hard as you can from there to get up to your handstand. Now that works really well. Maybe your balance isn't so strong, but you have a really strong push, then that one is good. But the slightly easier version from a strength point of view is starting in the handstand, maybe not going all the way to the bottom, but going back up again. Maybe you do a bit of a partial range. So you come down, head goes just below the box, and then you come back up again, and then you could add on the back of that a full eccentric to your shoulder stand position. And then you can just keep going deeper and deeper until you go all the way down, touch, and get back up again. Now we can just use the same progressions against the wall, but we've got the beauty or the added benefit of being able to walk up and down the wall, which makes it a little bit easier. So let's get into position. I can do my eccentric, and then I can walk back up the wall to get back up. Now that does make it slightly easier unless you're sagging into the wall. If we're sagging into the wall, it can be really hard to get back up. With the freestanding version, we use a little bit of overbalance to help us out, and that actually makes the handstand push-up much easier. I can do way more repetitions freestanding than I can against the wall. Now, if you need more help with the handstand push-up or any of the other calisthenics skills, check out my website, www.paultwyman.com.au. I have options for all levels and all budgets. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comments below, and I'll speak to you in the next one.